Alright, welcome back to the Sex and the City series, you guys. And I'm back, just got done reading chapter 11. Now I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 12, which is The Skipper and Mr. Marvelous Seek Hot Sex in Southampton Hedges. And I'm just going to kind of, try to go through these chapters so that we can get through a few since we've missed at least a week of reading. So, yeah. Alright, chapter 12, you guys. Maybe it's just the indisputable fact that most people really do look better with a tan. Or maybe it's proof that the sex drive is stronger than ambition, even for New Yorkers. In any case, there's something about the Hamptons that leads itself to meaningless sexual encounters, the kind of embarrassingly brief couplings that most people don't necessarily want to acknowledge in the morning. Call it a combination of skin, topless women on Media Beach. Geography takes so long to drive from Southampton to East Hampton, especially if it's 4 in the morning. In topography, all those high hedges where couples can hide. But figuring out how to work all those elements to one's advantage, especially if you're a man, can take some finesse. And youth is not necessarily an advantage. You have to know the ropes and how to get out of them gracefully afterwards. Otherwise, you'll end up with something, but it might not be what you expected. Here's a cautionary tale about 3 hopeful bachelors in the Hamptons during 4th of July weekend. But first, meet our contestants. Bachelor 1, Skipper Johnson, 25, preppy. Entertainment law, boy wonder. Plans to run one of the big studios someday, which he says will be in New York. Beach toys, small Mercedes, Brooks Brothers clothing. I have Brooks Brothers body, and cellular phone, which he makes constant use. Recently, friends complained that Skipper spent 2 hours in the parking lot at the beach, on the phone, doing a deal. It's such a waste of time going to the beach, Skipper says. Besides, I don't like getting sandy. Is worried about his recent lack of sexual success. Do women think I'm gay, he asks, earnestly. Bachelor number 2, Mr. Marvelous. 65, says he's 60, square jaw, silver hair, bright blue eyes, athletic, all parts work on demand, married and divorced 5 times, 12 kids, wives number 2, 3, and 4, all good friends. Buddies wonder what his secret is. Beach toys, none, but can talk about penthouse apartment on Park Avenue, house in Bedford, apartment in Palm Beach, staying with friends for the weekend on Further Lane in East Hampton, considering buying a place. Bachelor number 3, Sanford Blotch, 35, screenwriter, the next Joe Estes. I don't know if I said that last name right, but whatever. Gay, but prefers straight guys. Long, dark, curly hair. Refuses to cut it or put it in a ponytail. Will probably get married and have kids one day. Stays in grandmother's house on Housley Neck Lane in Southampton. Grandma lives in Palm Beach. Beach toy, doesn't drive, so convinces the family chauffeur to come out on weekends to drive him around. Best beach toy, has known everybody worth knowing since he was a child, so he doesn't have to prove it. Skipper's cold shower. Friday night, Skipper Johnson drives out to Southampton, where he has arranged to meet friends at Bath Lico. 4 women, all in their late 20s, who work at Ralph Lauren and who, to the naked eye, are indistinguishable from one another. Skipper finds their bland prettiness comforting, and as well as the fact there's a small herd of them. It means that he doesn't have the burden of trying to keep one of them entertained for the evening. They drink Pine Hamptons at the bar. Skipper pays. At 11 o'clock, they go to M80. There's a crowd outside, but Skipper knows the doorman. They drink cocktails out of plastic cups. Skipper runs into some friends. The modelizers, George and Charlie. I've got 12 girls staying at my place this weekend, George boasts to Skipper. George knows that Skipper is dying to come over, so he purposely doesn't invite him. 2 of the models begin throwing cocktails at each other, laughing. At 2 a.m., one of the girls gets sick in the bushes. Skipper offers to drive them home. A ranch house just before you get to the good part of Southampton. They have a case of beer in the refrigerator, nothing else. Skipper goes into a bedroom and sits on the bed with one of the girls and sips the beer. He lies down and closes his eyes, slipping his arm around the girl's waist. I'm too drunk to drive home, says in a puppy dog voice. I'm going to sleep, the girl says. Oh, please let me stay. We'll just sleep. I promise, Skipper says. Okay, but you have to sleep on top of the bed with your clothes on. Skipper complies. He falls asleep and begins snoring. Sometime in the middle of the night, the girl kicks him out of the couch. Saturday night, Skipper drives towards his house in East Hampton and decides to stop off to visit his friends, Carrie and Mr. Big in Bridgehampton. Mr. Big is shirtless in the backyard, smoking a cigar and watering the plants around the pool. I'm on vacation, he says. What are you doing? Don't you have a gardener? Skipper asks. Carrie is smoking cigarettes and reading the New York Post. He is the gardener. He washes cars, too. Skipper strips down to his boxer shorts and dives in the water with a cartoon character, with his knees bent at right angles sticking out to the side. When he comes up for air, Mr. Big says, Now I know why you can't get laid. What am I supposed to do? Skipper asks. Have a cigar, says Mr. Big. Mr. Blanche in love. Saturday, Helsley Nick Lane. Stanford Blatch is sitting by the pool, talking on the phone and watching his brother's girlfriend, whom he hates, trying to read his New York Observer. He's talking in an especially loud voice in the hope that she might go away. But you'd have to come out, he says into the phone. It's ridiculous. What are you going to do? Sit in the city all weekend and work? Get on the seaplane. I'll pay. Well, bring the manuscripts. You agents, you work too damn hard. Of course there's plenty of room. I have the whole upstairs. Stanford hangs up. He walks over to his brother's girlfriend. Do you know Robert Morskin? When the girl looks at him blankly, he says, I didn't think so. He's the hottest up-and-coming literary agent. He's adorable. Is he a writer? She asks. Now, you guys know that in the series, if you've seen it, that Skipper, or Stanford is actually Carrie's best gay friend in the series. So, it hasn't really said that, well, I guess it did say it was her friend home. So, yeah. Skipper blows it. Saturday night, Skipper goes to a barbecue at the home of his friends, the Rappaports, a young couple who also seems to be on the verge of divorce. He gets drunk again and tries the drinking beer and lying on the bed trick again with a girl named Cindy. It seems to be working, until he mentions that he thinks Jim Carrey is a genius. You know, I have a boyfriend, she says. Sunday, Mr. Marvelous calls his friend, tells him he's sick of Bedford and is coming out in his Ferrari. Stanford Blanche is sitting out by the pool in a Parsley Armani Cabana suit, a short-sleeved jacket and high, tight-fitting trunks. He's on the phone again to Robert Morskin. Why don't you come out tonight? There's a great party. There aren't that many great parties out here anymore, you know? Are you bringing a date? Bring a girl if you want, I don't care. Sunday night. Or this new section is called Something Amazing Happens. Sunday night, Court Flesky's book party at Ted Field's house. Skipper hasn't been invited, which pisses him off. Nevertheless, he has arranged to go to a party by offering to drive Stanford Blatch, whom he knows vaguely and who is invited everywhere to the party. The party is outside. Skipper notices that a young woman named Margaret is paying a lot of attention to him. Margaret is short, with dark hair and large breasts. Pretty, but not Skipper's type. Works in public relations. Skipper and Margaret decide they have to go to the bathroom, which means walking along a torch-lit path, snaking behind some bushes to the porta potties. They head for some hedges. They start kissing, and then something amazing happens. I just really want to do this, Margaret says, and she kneels down and unzips his pants. Skipper is astounded. The whole act takes him less than 2 minutes. You're going to give me a ride home, aren't you? Margaret says, nudging him. I can't, he says. I promised I would give Stanford a ride home, and you live in the opposite direction. Oh, Mr. Marvelous. Rat nightmares, okay. Further lane, Mr. Marvelous from Bedford arrives just in time for dinner. His host, Charlie, has been divorced for 5 years. He's invited some men and some women in their 30s to early 40s. Mr. Marvelous sits next to a woman named Sabrina, 32, breath spilling out of her black Donna Karan tank top. Mr. Marvelous gets to her drinks, is sympathetic about her ex-husband. At 11 o'clock, Sabrina says that they have to go to Stephen's talk house in Amagaset to meet some friends. Mr. Marvelous offers to drive her home. She might be a little drunk. They end up at Sabrina's house at 3 in the morning. When he walks in, her girlfriend says, "If you've got any kinky ideas in your head, you can just forget about them right now." She lies down on the couch and turns out the light. Later, about 5 in the morning, Mr. Marvelous begins feeling claustrophobic. Sabrina's house is tiny. He can hear her friend snoring on the couch just outside the bedroom door. "I'm going out of my mind," he thinks. Monday, Mr. Marvelous calls Sabrina, whom he just left an hour before. "Her machine is on. Do you want to come to the beach?" He goes to Media Beach, meets Carrie and Mr. Big. Then he spots an attractive blonde with a Cocker Spaniel. He walks up to her and starts playing with her dog. They get into a conversation. You think he's going to get somewhere when her boyfriend walks up. A big honking guy with an overdeveloped chest and short legs. Mr. Marvelous returns to his towel. Samantha Jones is there, sitting with Carrie and Mr. Big. The girl and her boyfriend walk up to the beach. When the blonde passes Mr. Marvelous, she turns and waves. "See? I told you she was interested." "Really interested," Mr. Marvelous says. "In you?" Samantha asks. She laughs meanly. Cellular breakdown. Skipper is playing tennis when he hears his cellular phone ringing. "Hi, honey," Margaret says, "just wondering what you're doing." "I'm in the middle of a tennis game," Skipper says. "Want to come over after? I'd love to cook you dinner over here." I can't." "What do you mean you can't?" "I mean, I don't know what I'm doing yet. I told some other people I would go over to their house for dinner. So, we'll go together." Skipper lowers his voice. "I don't think I can do that. It's kind of business. You know what I mean?" "My little mongrel," Margaret says. Robert Morriskin finally arrives by seaplane. Stanford is a little pissed he didn't come the day before, so he sends the chauffeur in an old Ford station wagon to pick him up instead of the Mercedes. Mr. Marvelous returns from the beach. Sabrina calls her back immediately, but gets her machine. Is it LL? Or is it L? Monday evening, Carrie, Mr. Big, and Mr. Marvelous are on their way to a cocktail party. Mr. Marvelous drives his big Mercedes slowly up Mecox Lane, past the horse farm. The sun is beginning to go down, and the grass has a particular green calmness. There's a little hill, and when the car comes over the top, there's a woman awkwardly rollerblading. She's wearing a tight white t-shirt and tiny black shorts. She has long dark hair tied up in a ponytail, but it's her legs that get you. "I'm in love," Mr. Marvelous says. When she turns off down a side road, he drives the car straight on, then stops and puts his hands on the top of the steering wheel. "I'm going back." Carrie tries to give Mr. Big a look, but he ignores her. He is laughing, going along with it all. Mr. Marvelous speeds up the road after the girl. Look at her. She doesn't even know how to rollerblade. She's going to get hurt. They pass the girl and Mr. Big says, "Is it L? She looks like L." Carrie's sitting back in the back seat, smoking a cigarette. "Too young for L," she says. Mr. Big rolls down his window and says, "Hi." The girl comes up to the car. "Hi." She's smiling, then looks confused. "Do I know you?" "I don't know you," says Mr. Marvelous, leaning across the seat. "I'm Mr. Marvelous." "I'm Audrey," says the girl. She looks at Mr. Big. "You look like someone I know." Mr. Marvelous hops out of the car. "Do you know how to stop? You've got to know how to stop. Rollerblading can be dangerous." The girl is laughing. "Here's what you do," Mr. Marvelous says, demonstrating by squatting down with one foot in front of him and sticking his arms straight out. "Thank you," the girl says. She begins to skate away. "Are you a model?" Mr. Marvelous says. "No," she says over her shoulder. "No, I'm a student." Mr. Marvelous gets back in the car. She had a ring on her finger. What's her husband doing letting her go rollerblading by herself? I would have asked her to marry me. She was that beautiful. Did you see her? What was her name? Audrey. Her name was Audrey. Kind of old-fashioned, huh? The boy in blue shins. Stanford has arranged dinner at Della Fima's for Robert. Afterward, they all go back to the house on Hansley Neck and smoke pot. At 2 in the morning, Robert begs off, saying he's got to plow through the pile of manuscripts in the morning. Stanford walks him to his room, which is decorated in traditional Southampton chintz. "I've always loved this room," Stanford says. "You can't get this blue chintz anywhere. I hope you won't be too hot. I still think it's best to sleep without the covers in the summer. We used to do that when we were kids, before my grandmother discovered air conditioning." Stanford sits down in an armchair as Robert gets undressed. Robert doesn't seem to mind, and Stanford keeps up a patter of chit-chat. Robert gets into bed and closes his eyes. "Tired?" Stanford says. He walks to the bed and looks down at Robert, whose eyes are closed. "Are you sleeping?" Tuesday, 4th of July, cellular phone. "It's Margaret." "Hi, honey. Everybody's going back early, and I don't want to." "When are you going back? Can I get a ride?" "I'm not going back until tomorrow morning," Skipper says. "Oh, well, I could go back tomorrow morning. I'll call my office." "Sure," says Skipper unhappily. "Don't you just love the end of the weekend when everybody's left and you're still out here? Let's go to dinner." "I don't think I can. I promised some friends." "No problem," Margaret says lightly. "We'll definitely see each other next weekend. We can plan it in the car tomorrow morning." Tuesday early evening, Mr. Marvelous turns his Mercedes into the road where he last saw Audrey. He gets out, opens the trunk, and after a certain amount of struggle, puts on a pair of rollerblades. He takes a couple of turns up and down the road. Then he leans against the side of his car and waits. Alright, you guys, that is the end of chapter 12. So we're going to continue to move on, so stay tuned to the next video. We are going to read chapter 13. Alright, holla back.